पाकिस्तान की तैयारी सीमा पर वार की थी, लेकिन भारत ने पाकिस्तान के सीने पर वार कर दिया। हमने पाकिस्तान के आतंकी और सैन्य ठिकानों पर अपनी जवाबी कार्रवाई को अभी सिर्फ स्थगित किया है। भारत पर आतंकी हमला हुआ तो मुंह तोड़ जवाब दिया जाएगा। हमने पाकिस्तान के आतंकी और सैन्य ठिकानों पर अपनी जवाबी कार्रवाई को अभी सिर्फ स्थगित किया है।
They struck through our borders, we struck at their heart. These were Prime Minister Narendra Modi's words in his address to the nation following India's decisive and overwhelming military response to Pakistan. The strikes didn't just dismantle Pakistan's nuclear bluff, they shattered its strategic depth, showcasing India's complete air superiority. This was the most punishing blow Pakistan has faced in decades, and it marks India's arrival into the arena of new age warfare. So how did India go from urging restraint to threatening the total annihilation of Pakistan? What made Pakistan finally hit the panic button and dial New Delhi? And what are India's new red lines moving forward? This is Shubhangi Sharma and you're watching Finepoint. Let's dive in. On May 10, 2025, India launched its most decisive military operation against Pakistan in decades, delivering a comprehensive blow that exposed the fragility of Pakistan's nuclear posturing. What began as a calibrated counter-terror operation swiftly escalated after Pakistan fired a ballistic missile reportedly capable of carrying a nuclear warhead towards Sirsa in India. This prompted an overwhelming retaliatory response from the Indian Air Force. For the third consecutive night, Pakistan had launched waves of drones and fighter jets along the western border. But the situation dramatically escalated when a Fatah-2 ballistic missile with nuclear potential penetrated deep into Indian airspace before being intercepted over Sirsa in a massive explosion. Analysts pointed out that the potent missile could well be on its way to New Delhi. This nuclear threat from Pakistan in the form of this ballistic missile was loud and clear. It clearly intended to overwhelm India's air defense shield with swarms of drones and send in lethal missiles that could cause mass devastation. This crossed all red lines, and that's when BrahMos entered the picture with full force. India responded with ferocity. Prime Minister Narendra Modi authorized a retaliatory campaign bigger in scale than Operation Sindoor, targeting Pakistan's military infrastructure deep inside Pakistan. Within hours, the Indian Air Force launched precision strikes on 11 major Pakistani bases. Armed with BrahMos, Hammer and Scalp missiles, India devastated critical military assets in the Noor Khan Air Base in Rawalpindi, Rafiki Air Base in Shorkat, Murid Air Base in Punjab, Sukur Air Base in Sindh, Sialkot Air Base, Sargodha Air Base, Skardu Air Base, Bolari Air Base near Karachi, Jacobabad Air Base and Pasroor. These are some of the main military targets that the Indian Air Force pummeled with complete impunity in the early hours of May 10th. One of the most significant targets was the Noor Khan Air Base in Rawalpindi, close to Islamabad. This was home to Pakistan's military transport and air refueling capabilities and in proximity to the Strategic Plans Division, which oversees Pakistan's nuclear command. The message was unmistakably loud. India had the capability to decapitate Pakistan's nuclear command structure. Pakistan was officially in panic mode. India's strikes were not just symbolic but surgically devastating. They demonstrated the potential of India's rage, how far it can go. The runway at Rahim Yar Khan was cratered. The same was with Sargodha, Noor Khan, Jacobabad. A radar base in Chunyan was knocked out. A building in the Bolari base was knocked out. And the list goes on. The Indian Air Force's precision strikes on these Pakistani air bases has rendered them inoperable for days or even weeks. Pakistan's air defense was jammed for over 20 minutes, leaving the nation's military assets exposed that day. Satellite imagery and intercepted defense communications showed panicked responses from Pakistan's top brass. It is important to note that India's air assault went as far as Karachi, where the air defense unit in Malir Cant was reportedly destroyed. Video footage of explosions across the length and breadth of Pakistan, including its suspected nuclear sites near Kirana Hills and Sargodha, further demonstrated the severity of India's operations. In fact, a statement from the Indian Air Force's DGMO established an unspoken truth. This is what he said.
Thank you for telling us that Kirana Hill houses some nuclear installation. We did not know about it. Okay. And we've not hit Kirana Hills, whatever is there. Okay. I did not brief in my briefing yesterday.
Air Marshal A.K. Bharti said this with a telling smirk, suggesting that India perhaps got closer than imagined to doing the unthinkable. India went from exercising restraint to adopting a gravely hostile tactical posture, positioning itself to do the unthinkable beyond Pakistan's imagination, all to strike terror in the heart of the terror sponsor. This painted an image for Pakistan of what total annihilation could look like for a country with 170 nuclear weapons. Annihilation and decapitation of Pakistan's nuclear nerve centers would trigger an all-out war with unthinkable costs and risk the nukes falling into the hands of terrorists. But the message from India was clear. If Pakistan thinks it can get away with nuclear blackmail, it faces the deadliest consequences ahead. Also note, throughout India's campaign, every Indian missile hit its target. From Bahawalpur to Noor Khan, the strikes proved India's precision and dominance. Meanwhile, not a single Pakistani missile found success in India, as India's multi-layered air defense shield proved to be impenetrable with God-level efficiency. With this, India not only thwarted Pakistan's brazen attacks on its cities, but exposed the hollowness of its arsenal of Turkish drones and Chinese missiles. Indian intelligence intercepted panic communications across Pakistani defense networks, and it highlighted the fears that India would next target the heart of Pakistan's nuclear infrastructure. With key installations already hit, Islamabad was suddenly staring at total strategic paralysis. So India had grabbed Pakistan by the throat. This was when, fearing annihilation, Pakistan rushed to the Americans for mediation. A call from US Secretary of State Marco Rubio reportedly urged Pakistan's army chief to get off the accelerator. But India remained resolute. It would not enter any mediation process with Pakistan. But take note of this. The Pakistani DGMO, who had earlier ignored India's outreach following the strikes on 9 terror bases on May 7th, was now calling India just days later. India made him wait over 2 hours before finally granting him an audience. A loose understanding for an immediate ceasefire was reached that same day. India made 2 things clear. There must be no more terror attacks on Indian soil, and the restoration of the Indus Waters Treaty is off the table. In fact, in his address, Prime Minister Modi established 3 red lines that Pakistan and the world will take note of. Number 1, any terror attack on India will receive a crushing retaliation. Number 2, India will never bow down to nuclear blackmail. And number 3, India will no longer differentiate between the state and the non-state. The terror-sponsoring state and its terror organizations are one and the same for India now. That means Pakistan's military installations are permanently fair game. From the outset, Operation Sindoor's objective was clear: to eliminate Pakistan's terror hubs and launch pads. But thanks to Pakistan's grave miscalculations, India's Sindoor went on to strike at the heart of Pakistan, raining hellfire on its military bases with impunity and intent. This forced it to plead for talks and climb down the escalatory ladder. And that, folks, is the big story. A rattled Pakistan now copes with the humiliation with attempts to needle India, violating its ceasefire understanding with smaller drone attacks, probing India's air defenses. Classic Pakistani tactics, deceitful and suicidal. But now it knows that the Indian doctrine has changed forever. By establishing air superiority over Pakistan and threatening its most guarded assets, India shredded the myth of Pakistan's nuclear invincibility. The message was clear. Aggression will be met with overwhelming force, whether you're a nuclear power or not. This was absolute dominance, and Pakistan, for all its posturing, was left exposed militarily, strategically, and diplomatically.